Hey, what's going on, everyone? It is Dan Bennett, the Antipreneur, and this is the Antipreneur Show. Now, this episode had some technical difficulties, so once this intro is over, I want you to adjust the volume to where it's best for if you're in your car, listening on your phone, in headphones, whatever the case may be, because we had to use a backup audio channel. But this information was so great, I didn't want to lose it. I didn't want to throw the episode away. Davaughnu had so much great stuff to say. If you're watching this, you can see here in the background, I'm editing the episode right now. We got together. We had a great talk. This is one of those situations where a fellow marketer, some of the things we do overlap. Some entrepreneurs would shy away from that. I welcome collaboration with those in my field because there's enough to go around. And if you're doing a great job, I want to expose the people that are following what I'm doing to other great designers, great marketers, great storytellers, so we can all continue to learn. This is the Antipreneur Show. Thanks for sticking with us. Here we go. So thanks for being on and being part of this kind of experiment.
Great.
The Antipreneur Show is moving quickly into having guests on, which wasn't part of the plan, but I'm so excited about. So you want to give us an intro and tell us what you're all about?
I'm excited to be here, and thanks for having me on the show, Dan. My name's Davaughnu Banks, and I am now an entrepreneur. I've been in the advertising and marketing industry on the agency side for over 16 years, and decided about 5 years ago to become an entrepreneur and started consulting for marketing and really focusing on the branding side of things and strategy, and really enjoy helping clients with that, and created some principles around that, and that was really the inception of Envision Brand Marketing. And so those three principles are dream, purpose, and action. And so behind each one is fundamental branding and marketing strategy, and so what I really wanted to do is create something unique and in my approach, and really focus on the client and who their brand is, and why they came to do what they were doing. And so they had a dream to do something, and initially, and I really want to crystallize that dream with them first and foremost. And once that's crystallized, I can really help them find the customers and the relationships they really want to hone in on to create revenue, obviously, but also to create long-term relationships versus a short-term fix.
Right. So many entrepreneurs, and we get it, right? We get it. You got to pay the bills, but so many think such short-term thoughts, unfortunately, that you get caught up in it. And if enough short-term things happen where you're like, oh, I'm kind of paying the bills, this is okay, you've completely abandoned the long-term. I will say that what you're doing is working in the sense of an outside perspective. Anyone who follows me knows that I'm very visually driven. We're all about storytelling, obviously. I love metaphors and analogies, and the first thing you did was take part of the practical application, what you're doing for a client, and give it a name that painted a picture for me.
Sure.
And I love that kind of work because now I don't have to guess. You ever been to a website? You have no idea what they do.
Right.
Spend 5 minutes on it looking around like, what does this company do?
Exactly.
You can read 3 words on your site and I get it.
Right.
And that's powerful. I mean, our whole job, we do some things that do overlap, is to get a message across as precisely and concisely as possible, and I think that that does that. So bravo, because as soon as you said it to me the first time, I'm like, yep. Cool, I get it.
Nice.
Let's talk about what else you do, because that paints a picture. So very, very cool. So one of the first things is brand strategy.
Sure.
So can I assume that this is happening at the beginning of a relationship with a new client?
Exactly. And the branding, the branding is really what is the engine behind driving that relationship with the client. And not only am I helping them create a relationship with their customer, but I want to create a relationship with them, not just look at them as an opportunity to create revenue for myself and for Envision Brand Marketing. But the branding, the brand strategy is really, like I said before, crystallizing their thought process and their dream about what they really wanted to do with their company. And knowing that internally first, it's very similar to, getting that first job and understanding, your dream about becoming, that particular profession that you wanted to become, or an athlete who wants to become, the best athlete in the world. They have to have that dream first, and they really have to focus on, okay, these are the things that I need to do to get there. But first, let me crystallize this idea of what type of athlete I want to be. Do I just want to be, a high school athlete, or do I want to take it to the next level and be a college athlete? And then beyond that, do I want to go professional? And if you know that ahead of time, what work is needed to get there, and that's where the brand strategy really starts to crystallize.
I like that you used the word crystallize, because again, I can see it happening. And I think where a lot of entrepreneurs fall off, and this is starting to fall in this kind of antipreneur type vibe that we're trying to create, is there's no shortcuts. There's no easy way. We have wins that are easier than others, obviously, but crystallizing that dream, I think, falls, correct me if I'm wrong, in my world, that kind of tells me like my systems, my processes are in place and we're not going to deviate from them. Right. And that's a lot of times what I see, especially small businesses struggle with, is like, do whatever that client needs to make that money, and we've kind of deviated, but we'll do it because we got to eat. And what has really worked for my company, and I would assume you've seen the same kind of traction, is when you are crystallized, all the stuff that doesn't pertain to that going forward just sloughs off, and you just keep on trucking.
Exactly. You get away from the the fluff and the extras, and you don't look at, oh, here's another opportunity that I could make revenue. Here's another opportunity I can make revenue. You say, no, these are the things that make us unique, and even though that could make us revenue, we're not going that direction because that's not a part of our DNA.
Yeah. I love it.
Right?
Yeah. But it's so true. Yeah. A very, very short version of a long story that I'll tell you sometime. Someone very prominent in the manufacturing community, global leader, answered a question once of, how do I scale with your career is going to be made out of everything you say no to? And I asked people for the next year, what do you think he meant? I was like discovering, and two things I discovered. One, everyone had a different interpretation of what they thought he meant, and two, it ended up being something for me over time that developed. So there is no right answer to what that means, but what it ended up meaning for me was saying no to things that didn't align with where I was trying to get. And it took years for me to get to that point. So you're working with clients and you're focused on that right away. So whether they know it or not, they're getting a great deal no matter what they're paying you, because you are setting them up for success, as opposed to, here's some marketing, here's some strategy. You're like, no, we're going to actually do this the right way from the beginning, because so many people get halfway down the road and they're like, wheels are falling off and all kinds of stuff. And I like that approach, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that we all are attracted to the shiny projects, the shiny digital strategy that might be out there. The tactics is really what everybody gets drawn to. It's, okay, what's the next best thing out there for me to attack on Facebook, or in paid search or SEO? What can I do to create revenue quickly if I'm an e-commerce brand, or if I'm selling from a brick and mortar boutique? We all know that's the end game, that people want to create revenue. But if that's the only end game, then at some point you're going to be disenchanted with what you're doing, because you didn't put any type of purpose. My second step, you didn't put any type of purpose behind it. You just said, I want to make revenue, and once you do that, then the sky's the limit, because then you're going to be like, okay, I want to make more revenue, and then I want to make more revenue, and it's like, there's nothing wrong with that, but what are you doing to do that? You're going to sacrifice something, because you're going to start to deviate from your brand mission and your values and the unique identity that you created when we started with the brand strategy, with that dream. And it's not going to be your dream anymore. It's going to be someone else's dream. It's going to be, this just revenue generating machine. It's like, I liken it to, a vending machine. It's like, You can be a vending machine all day. Someone can come in, put their money in, and get what they want, and then leave. But what type of relationship are you creating being a vending machine? You're not. You're just providing a service or a product, and at any point in time, whoever has the best vending machine can take over.
Yeah.
I just listened to the whole idea of Blockbuster, and I love to use that example all the time. And it's like Blockbuster and Netflix, and it's like obviously Netflix is on a change as well in terms of where they're going. But in the initial part of it, they knew their unique identity and that they were going to create something different from what Blockbuster was doing, and everybody was like, what are they doing? Like, nobody wants to get a DVD mailed to them, and sure enough, people started catching on, and then they're like, okay, we need to evolve even more because DVDs aren't going to be around anymore. And so they were constantly evolving, but they were staying on their mission that we're providing this service that makes it more convenient for people to access videos and movies and content overall. And Blockbuster kind of sat back and said, we're good at what we do, we're creating revenue, we've got stores everywhere, no one can touch us. And within a year, they were gone.
It's crazy. There was one right by me while all that happened. And I actually, for a short time, switched to getting Blockbuster DVDs in the mail because they were trying to compete there. And it was cool because they knew they couldn't compete, so what they did was send it to you, and then when you brought it back to the store, you could take one off the shelf right then. So they were trying to give you an extra movie ahead of time instead of waiting for the next one to come in the mail, which was cool because my Blockbuster was like 4 blocks away. But yeah, a year, gone.
Yeah,
and
they were trying to adapt to their competition versus carving out who they were, their brand identity, their brand strategy from the beginning was to provide movies to pretty much the entire North America and beyond. But they lost that somewhere along the way, and someone came in and really stole their lunch.
Yeah, totally. It's funny too how I love when, trying to think of a way to package this, I don't want to sound negative at all, but when a smaller guy like us understands what's happening in bigger stores and chains and retail and stuff, it makes you wonder, what are the big dogs, the top of industry when it comes to marketing and advertising, what are they actually talking about in those rooms when they're having their meetings, when people like us can look and say, man, I think you might be doing it wrong. Maybe you should really listen to the customer, see what they're wanting, and follow them. Even if Blockbuster gets smaller and you go digital and you lose your stores, at least you're still relevant or around. I often think, like, what are they thinking in there? Are they thinking like, let's just ride this ship until it crashes and we'll all jump off at the last second, take as much money as we can and go? Or are they actually trying to problem solve? Because a lot of times you just look at what they do and you're like, did you have any strategy? Did you have any long-term goals? It's crazy. So it's kind of cool because you segued into the next portion of kind of what you do. So tell me a little bit more about like the next step. You've crystallized this vision with a client.
Sure.
What does it look like after that?
Yeah, sure. So we get to this crystallization of the brand and who they are internally, and knowing who they are. And everyone talks about that. Even as a human being, knowing who you are is the start of reaching your goals as a human being. And so how does that change when you go to becoming a company or a small business? You should have the same principles behind that because it's human driven. And so once you know that, we get to the second step that I talked about. You go from dream and you go to your purpose. And that's really understanding the mechanics of what goes on externally outside and what that brand story is going to look like to your consumer. And in order to do that, you have to get to know your consumer. That's where research comes in, the marketing research part, understanding who's your audience, develop personas, develop a true understanding and IQ of who that individual is. And then maybe it's more than one individual, maybe there's multiple targets, maybe you're a small business or a medium-sized business that attacks consumers and businesses, and you have a product or service that applies to both. But you don't know that until you really dive in. You might have assumptions, but until you really dive in and understand, your audience, you're really not going to know how to target them, where they live in terms of digital media, in terms of the type of content they like to consume. You have to really dig in and understand that about your audience, and then understand where they live, their geography, the idiosyncrasies of how they live within that geography, and what are the things they take in on a daily basis. We have, mobile is such a big part of our lives right now. We would rather take home, or we'd rather leave our wallet home than leave our phone. We'll go back for our phone, but we won't go back for our wallet. I mean, that's crazy to think back, 10, 15, 20 years back, no one would have left their wallet at home. But now it's a different story. We're attached to this mobile device, and to understand how your audience use that, whether B2B or B2C, or even direct to consumer, you have to understand what that looks like in terms of their purchase patterns, and if you're offering a service, what does that look like in terms of offering that service? So.
It's so good. If you're following the Antipreneur thought process or movement at all, you're already seeing the depth that he's going into. You're seeing the customization. You're seeing all the things that we preach, which is there is no quick fix. You can't just buy a bag of Quickcrete and pour it in the hole and have it last. You got to dig out the hole, and you got to re-foundation, and you got to put it in concrete, and you got to cure appropriately, and you got to do it a certain time of year, and all that kind of stuff. Like, there's just such a difference, and all the cliches that are cliche, I still love them. Like, you get what you pay for. Mm-hmm. You also get more if you take the time to work with someone who's actually going to dive in and figure these things out. Right. And it makes me light up, because we have a creative discovery process that is similar in the sense of making sure that your vision's clear, how are we going to tell the story, and so on. So it's refreshing for me, because I run across a lot of people in our industry, and I always use air quotes because I hate getting pegged as anything, because we're all individuals, but you run across a lot of people that do what you do in some form, and sometimes you just walk away like, oh, they are not giving a great service, and people are hiring them, which means a lot of people are being left kind of with mediocre results. And then when I come across someone, maybe they've already had that experience, they're like, oh yeah, you marketer guys or whatever. So I always try and distance myself, but it's true. The cool thing is, if someone's worked with you along the way, they're not going to feel that way. They're going to feel that someone cared, they took care to dive in and make it matter. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, this is people's livelihoods we're talking about.
Exactly. And I want you to succeed. I really do. I want my brand clients, my partners, to succeed in what they're doing. And I'm not just looking to make a buck here. I really want you to succeed at what you're doing, and help you understand that there's a process here that isn't going to be an overnight, like you said, an overnight success, especially if you're just starting out. But if you're at this conundrum where you've already started making revenue, it's hard to dial back and go, I need to create my purpose, even though you're already making revenue. But if you can just take a pause, that pause is a long-term, thought, and it's not short-term and thinking, I'm still making money right now, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. Because at some point it's going to stop. The train's going to stop, and you got to know how to pivot and create a different game plan that still aligns with your mission, but continues to reach the goals that you set out to reach. And that's that same thinking, that we made, with Blockbuster and Netflix. It's like, you can't get comfortable where you're at. You have to continue to evolve and understand your competition. And that's a part of the second phase as well, is understanding your audience, but understanding your entire audience, because your entire audience isn't just your customer, it's also your competition. And you don't want to focus on them so much that you're losing your thought process and your innovation, but you do want to look at them and say, okay, what are they doing that is successful? I just heard a motivational speech about, Apple and Microsoft, and around the time when Apple was coming out with iPod, and Microsoft created the Zune.
Yeah.
And they had people come in and look at the Zune, and this guy looked at the Zune and he said, "This is a great device. This is amazing." He goes, "But I went to this conference, and the whole time I was listening to this conference, they're talking about how much they're better than Apple."
Yeah.
And then I went to the Apple conference when they created the iPod, and they were talking about innovation and what they did to create this iPod and how it is going to change the life of their customer and the benefits and the value that it's going to bring to their customer versus talking about their competition. That Microsoft got so enthralled with their competition, they forgot about they've created this great product that was actually better than the iPod. But no consumer was going to know that because they weren't talking about their brand and how their brand is going to bring the benefits and the value to the customer by using this device. And so
It's so crazy, man. It's so crazy because, especially hindsight, it's a little easier to understand than when you're in the middle. But I remember when that device was coming out, thinking to myself, and this is long before I launched my company, thinking to myself, it's funny that all Apple has ever done is take what already exists and do it in a different way with a different story. They didn't invent anything.
Right.
And then
Steve Jobs admits to that.
Oh yeah. That's no secret at all. And then you see the Zune come out and copy what's already out there, but instead of we do it smarter, faster, slimmer, whatever, like you said, they took that story of what then turned into like every phone that came out after that being an iPhone killer. Will this be the iPhone killer? And it's like, why isn't it what we now see Galaxy or Note or whatever? Why wasn't it that the story? It was always going to kill the iPhone. There's plenty of people with phones. You don't got to kill the iPhone. You got to make something great. What a great example, dude, because that's story.
Yeah, it's the story.
It's how they position their...
They positioned their story in a way that was about the value they were bringing and the sleekness and how cool they were. And they focused on a specific target, the younger generation, Gen X, and it made it really cool. And then everybody caught on, and everybody was like, oh, wow. And they priced it a little bit higher than Microsoft. And you're thinking, what are you, crazy?
Yeah.
Like, why are you pricing it so much higher? Like, and they've been consistent with that with their products. But people have bought into it because they've been able to tell their brand story and be consistent with their brand story throughout that process. And, that was the genius behind Steve Jobs. And, he created that brand strategy from the beginning. And that's what made him so genius. It wasn't that he was this technological genius or anything of that nature, and he admits to that as well. That wasn't behind his engine. The engine was, the way he could tell a story, the way that he could develop a brand and a brand identity, really permeated, the industry. And that's why Apple has been so successful. And we'll see where the future takes them. But both companies are still doing well, and they have some things that they're working through. But great examples. And I look at it from a smaller sense. I look at the smaller business, the guy that's really trying to make a difference in his community or in his region. Small business, medium-sized business. And I think those same principles apply. And once you get your purpose, and you understand what your role is and the impact that you want to have on the world, then that clarity, that crystallization will bring you to another level. And that's a beautiful thing, I was also, listening to this other motivational speech, and they talked about 4 C's, the C5 complex. Okay. And he said clear, concise, compelling, consistent, and committed.
Nice.
And I mean that just honed in on the purpose, that second step of Envision Brand Marketing, and I feel like if you have a clear vision and a clear mission statement and values, and they're very concise, you're not going to veer, and you're never going to. You're always going to know what your no is, and you're always going to know what your yes is. And if you have a compelling story, a value proposition that people are going to believe in, and you stay consistent with that, people are really going to be attracted to that. And as a human being, people are attracted to that. If you're consistent, you're truthful, you're honest, you say what you mean, and you mean what you say, and you follow through on that, and you stay committed. That's how marriages are successful. That's how businesses are successful. That's how human beings are successful.
I love it, man. It falls right in, again, with the Antipreneur kind of concept that the core fundamentals that get overlooked are so powerful. And then when you can look at history and see over and over and over, these core fundamentals work, why do we deviate? I feel like, at least early on in my career, half of what I was doing was like either convincing them or changing their mind about the fact that what you're doing is not working, and it's what you're doing that's not working. It's not you. Let's change what you're doing. And they would just hold on to these things because that's the way everyone's doing it, or the latest trend or whatever, and these core fundamentals work. It's like, why change? Why reinvent the wheel? We can make our own version of our wheel. We can give 4 of them to a client and help them get rolling, but why try and reinvent it? It blows my mind a lot. So it's so cool that we're hitting on these very what I consider like old school principles, but it's because they matter,
And they work.
Yeah, they'd work. That's why anyone watching, like, we're giving away amazing content today because it works. You could literally just listen to this, apply a couple things, and study for a couple weeks, 4 weeks, 8 weeks, and go, I mean, that's all there is to it.
I mean, they're simple principles with sometimes complex steps, and there's going to be failure along the way, but it hurts sometimes, and it's going to be hard because you're not going to be making the revenue sometimes that you want to make, or you're going to be going in directions that you feel are take too long. That's the big thing that we all want things to happen tomorrow, or even in the next 5 minutes. I mean, that's why we're constantly looking at convenience. And that's why things are so successful today in our world, because as soon as you provide a convenience or a way for people to save time, they jump on it. Because we want it tomorrow. We want the next best fitness workout. And if it's going to make me lose 30 pounds, then I'm going to jump on it right away.
12 minutes a day.
But it's a short-term thinking. 12 minutes a day, or a 21-day fix, and or a 30-day or a 90-day fix, and it's like, when those 90 days are done, what do you do? Did anyone tell that person what they do? Or are they going to stop short at 90 days? You need to have a short term and a long term. And so that's really the steps within the brand strategy, the dream, and the purpose. Those 2 steps really bring forth the short-term and the long-term goals that you're going to set forth, that is going to create that success.
Which is what you really want anyway. That's why you're hiring anyone that does anything near what we do, is because you want that success. And spoiler alert, if you shock your body with any diet, you're going to lose that 15 pounds. It doesn't matter what the diet is. If you change what you're doing for 21 days, you'll lose the weight. You'll get it back, but you'll lose it. That's why you see so many commercials that say lose 15 pounds, because if you shock it with anything new, you will lose 10 to 15 pounds.
Doesn't matter what it is.
Okay, so we have a dream. We have crystallized that dream. We've developed a purpose, which starts to get into taking that strategy and implementing it. Where are we going from here?
We're going to execution. We're going to action. That's my 3rd step, is action. And everybody talks about passion and passion. If you have passion, I'm all about passion, but active passion is what we want. So now you have this dream, and you're passionate about this dream. You're passionate about what you want to do. You're purposeful. You have this, crystallized vision about where you're going. This strategy about who you're going to approach, and your competition, and the geography. You have all of those elements laid out, but now you want to activate it. And this is the fun part, obviously, because everybody loves to do is execute, and let me get on social media, create my social media page, create my website. Awesome. You're doing that. You're creating all of that. But, how are you actually executing that in a way that is going to help you win? And not just win, again, for the short term, but win long term, and begin to look at how things are executing and are they doing well? Looking at the data, looking at the analytics, and saying, all right, this one did really well, but this one didn't. How can we optimize, or how can we compare and contrast these two? But these are the vehicles that have really worked for us, and now we're not going to use this one because it didn't really perform for us. And that's looking at data over a long period of time.
Right.
It's not just saying, we tried Facebook ads for a month, and it didn't work. I didn't get any revenue for that month. Well, you got to give it some time to build. Right. How often have you been on Facebook engaging with your audience and really mixing, your strategy with, organic, Facebook post and boosts and paid, how are you really mixing that strategy so you're really connecting with your audience in a way that, allows when you actually put forth some dollars for it to actually cling to those customers that are already fans, or whether it's Instagram or Facebook or whatever platform you're using, paid search. People aren't going to search for you if they don't know anything about you, and if they are searching for a product that's already popular, what are you doing to make sure that you're the first one found, and so that takes time as well. And then I talk about websites. It's like, you guys know about websites really in terms of the development piece. And once you've developed it, you have this house that you've created, this, storefront. And once it's created, people are like, well, do I need to do anything else? Or, we're done, right? No, you're not done. You just created a house. Do you just walk away from your house and leave it empty? No, you got to fill your house. You got to put furniture in it. You got to take care of it. Things are going to break down. You've got to be able to maintain that house, but also improve it over time because, Google changes, the search engines, have different, policies and things that they're going to adjust. We look at all the things out there that don't stay consistent, and digital is one of those things that never stays consistent.
It's maddening at times because we're always trying to use these tools to help our clients. And I like that you said passion. I always view passion, again, metaphor guy, like as one component that goes into the fuel that drives you and keeps you going. Sometimes people look at it as the only fuel, and I think it's actually a component that goes in with other things. So you need passion to keep that drive going, but if you rely only on it, or you think you burn out so fast, and so I like that you brought that up because that is only one component, and we have to keep our vision on, again, where we're going, these things we've established all the way up to the execution. I always tell the story of I was born in '80 and I fell off my bike and skinned my knees and came home when the lights came on, and I have that '80s kids nostalgic kind of childhood memories. And then in '93 my friend's dad was super into all kinds of stuff, but computers and all this stuff, so we were on the internet right when it was available in homes. And I remember getting onto a chat board, and someone else in Mount Morris, Michigan was on a chat that we were on, and we typed and they typed back, and we just we're not on the phone. This is insane. And everything changed. So I have this old school sense of business principles and fundamentals, and we use the new technology to just get the word out. And I think that's one of the reasons that we've had some successes, because it's built into our approach that you just never abandon the old school things that matter. And it sounds like that's what you're doing, is you're setting them up with a foundation, principles that matter. Again, you use the word crystallize, which I love, because I can see you working with someone, and when they're done, this is going to stay in this nice glass case, and we will always come back to this. And now that we're at the execution, if we're getting a little, shiny object here or there or whatever, we can always, hey, this is where we started, this is what we're trying to accomplish, let's remember. And I think a mix of those two things. I talk about instead of trying to cut through all the noise or be louder, doing something differently stands out nowadays, because everyone's like, ooh, I see what they're doing, I'm going to try and do it better. And I think that turns what you're doing into a commodity instead of an experience, and it's I can go get milk, and half the time I don't know what brand I'm buying. It's just whatever's cheapest because it's a commodity. But if someone's buying almond milk, there's a reason. There's a story behind it, and there's an end goal. So it sounds like you're setting people up for success by making sure what they're doing doesn't just turn into a commodity where they're competing with a bunch of other people saying and doing the same things. You're saying, no, we got to maintain the lawn, have a few house parties, maybe a housewarming, so people bring stuff to your house, build this website, but also build a community, offer tools, I'm sure, depending on what people do, make it the place on the block where if there's going to be a block party, they're coming to your house. Like, they know this is the place to be, and it's fun to, again, being visual, like, follow along with what you're saying, because I can see it happening. I can see you sit with someone, I can see light bulbs go off for them when they, oh yeah, I have a dream. Now we're going to cement that. Okay, I have a purpose. This is how we're going to accomplish. Okay, and here's the execution to capitalize on all that. And I mean, use all the standard examples. McDonald's. There's a reason that you can be 15 and thrown into that machine and succeed, because there's a system in place, and you just got to learn the system and play your part in it, and it'll work, and it just keeps working because there's no deviation, from that. So. And
I love that example that you brought up about McDonald's, and they're a great company to look at in terms of how they've at times stayed consistent, but then at one point they tried to deviate and become something they were not. They tried to get super healthy. And this was right after Super Size Me. You know what I mean? And it's like right on the cusp of everybody getting to these health kicks and exercising and doing all these things and going organic. And there was a lot of pressure from them to change, because the market was beginning to expand into this organic, healthy, trend, and so they felt like they had to jump on that wagon. But they serve a purpose. They serve a purpose of providing a meal at a low cost. And that is it. That's it. And people find that delicious. And convenient. And that's okay. And you have to be okay with who you are. And not worry about, am I going to, and it's sometimes it's hard because there is a lot of pressure from competition or things in the outside world that make you think you have to change your mission. And there's nothing wrong with optimizing your mission, going back to that crystal and saying, can we tweak this and still stay with our overall thinking? Can we tweak this a little bit and make things continue to grow? And I see companies do that. The Amazons were of the world who thought, who had a thought process of, we're going to start with books. But they haven't changed their mission in terms of why they're doing what they're doing and providing a convenience for people in the over the long haul. But they have added different offerings and products to people along the way. And so with McDonald's, they realized that, hey, the salad thing, this, healthy kick, that's for somebody else. Let's go back to our mission. We provide fast food to people who need it in a pinch or enjoy having it, and we've been successful with that for eons of years. Why are we going to change our philosophy? Because the world is changing to be more healthy. There's always going to be people who need food and need it inexpensively. Organic food is very expensive. So you found your target, you found your audience, and it might be shrinking a little bit, but that's okay. You just come up with different ways to attract that same audience and engage them and make their life more convenient, and you'll be fine. And you're going to continue to hold on to those generations after generation, because there's always going to be rich, there's always going to be middle class, there's always going to be poor. And so people are going to have a desire to eat on the go and have fast food. So it's important to stay in your lane, as they say now, and really know that you don't have to worry about your competition or different facets that are created if you really stick to that brand strategy and that brand focus that you created in the beginning.
I love it, dude. It's funny too, because McDonald's referenced trillions of times, I'm sure, as it's a system, it works, that's why they've been around so long, and then they deviate. But it's also cool to see I can't, like while you were talking, I took a little time out and was trying to quickly think of any other companies that have pivoted and been like, oh, nope, and went back. And I can't think of any, not saying there aren't, but I can't think of any other quickly outside of what you're saying, which is McDonald's, which is that like, yeah, we tried it. And so you know what we're about. We're just going to do our thing, which is another one of those cliches, like just do you. But I say that so many times to my, especially potential clients, quit trying to figure everyone else out. You need the data of your competition. You need to know what's going on in your landscape, but like quit trying to figure out how to be something else and like do you, because if it's working, it's going to work on a bigger scale. And if it's not working, we can quickly bring to light that maybe this isn't going to work. Right. So save some time, save some money, go in a different direction or pivot depending on what you do for a living. I love that example. Yeah. So we've kind of taken a journey, although I'm sure we could talk for days about what this is like, but like we've taken a journey of introduction, crystallizing that vision, establishing a purpose, and executing, starting to reach a goal. What are you thinking in terms of engagement with your clients as these things roll out? In a client's mind, they might see these 3 steps and it's compartmentalized, and they don't realize they're going to be like on a journey with you. In between, maybe say like a strategy session, this crystallization of a dream, and actually starting to develop purpose and stuff. What is your relationship like with a client? What are you doing? Not necessarily nuts and bolts, but just how are you feeling? How do you navigate? Because it's going to roll out over time, but they're probably thinking like clunk, clunk, clunk. You know what I mean?
I'm feeling energized. When I go into my first, discovery call or first meeting, I'm feeling energized, and then I get fed that energy from the client if they're passionate and they're really energetic about moving forward with their business, and they understand the journey and the story that I'm trying to tell behind Envision Brand Marketing with dream, purpose, and action, and understand that this is not going to be an isolated journey of me just telling you stuff and you reacting.
Right.
This is a relationship that we're going to build over time throughout this journey, and I'm going to learn a lot from you about your brand. So I'm going to get educated while I'm educating you about brand and marketing. We're both learning together, and it becomes this relationship that is, we talked a little bit via LinkedIn, symbiosis, where we're both benefiting. Obviously that's the underlying goal here, is that we all want to succeed at what we're doing. But I want to create a relationship with you that may just be business, but if it becomes personal, that's even better, because now we're going under the layers of I just want to make revenue, I just want to do marketing. It becomes very real, authentic, and that's important to me, is that I'm just not this guy who does your marketing. I'm not just an agency or a consultant, but you have to meet this guy from Envision Brand Marketing, that he's really cool dude who's really trying to help you change the way you do business, and not just another cog or spoke in the wheel, or another part of your company. But I really do want to infuse myself with the brand and become a partner. Not just a part of their company, but a partner in that way. And it might not be long term. It might be a year-long relationship. It might be half a year. It might be 2 years. Whatever that agreement ends up being, I still want to have the largest impact that I can have in terms of not just helping you change or optimize your business, but also become a integral part of how I impacted your life.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I love that you said relationship. Another thing we could talk about for days, but that you used it in a way where it's making it very obvious to anyone listening or watching that that's 2 parties, right? So there is that symbiosis, and I love that. I'm going to ask you a question. If you don't want to answer, that's totally fine. And they'll never know if you didn't.
Right.
Do you have a go-to to filter out a client, to say no to a potential client? Do you have anything that is like, if this happens, it's definitely, I'm not a good fit for you, and it's time to, keep on individual paths?
Sure. From a just high level standpoint, I really like to focus on consumer goods and services. So if you're offering a product, non-perishable product or service, I really like to focus on that. So that's
Cool.
really the wheelhouse that I've kind of stuck to from a high level. But then, digging a little bit deeper beyond that and getting to the relational aspect of it, I really need the client to be passionate about what they're doing and really care about what they're doing, to the point where it's not just about the revenue.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to tell me that your value proposition or your goal, your end game goal, is just to create revenue, then you're not the right fit for me.
Yeah.
But if you talk about how you want to impact, if your focus is children, how you want to impact children's lives, or how you want to impact, the fitness industry, or how you want to really change the way people, look at, a digital platform or a digital device, and really make their lives easier through this device, then I'm starting to hear that brand story. I'm starting to hear that purpose. I'm starting to hear that dream that you really thought out before you even thought about coming to me, and that's important.
Yeah.
I can't, see myself working with a client that just is all about, where's my next opportunity to make money. We all know that's the end for a client, and so let's put that aside for a moment and understand, the three principles first.
Absolutely. That's cool. I feel like what you're saying is totally fair. And I've talked to many people who kind of dance around how they filter out a client because one fear or another. But I think not only is it smart, but it's so fair, because I'm going back to you saying relationships. If you go on a date with someone, you're single, you're looking to be married and have kids and and they are divorced, don't want to be married again, already have kids, don't want anymore, you're probably not going to go out again. Doesn't mean that either person's bad, doesn't mean that anyone had any ill intentions. It just means it's not a good fit. And I love that what you said is we're going to be in a relationship. So if it doesn't look like we could essentially business date and get along, neither one of us is going to benefit.
Yeah.
So it's completely fair, and it's kind of a duh type moment, where it's like,
it's like, and it's an aha moment to say, you know what? Yeah, we just don't fit as partners or in this relationship. It's not going to work out because we don't match, and we have different outlook on life. But it's important to making sure that there's some commonality between your brand client, or if you're in a relationship, that partner that you want to be with for the rest of your life, you want to make sure there's some commonalities. But it's important to understand that sometimes those commonalities aren't going to be completely aligned. It's really behind the love and the passion behind creating that business, and that's what I want to see. I really want to see them enjoying what they're doing and not tired or frustrated at the fact that they're not making money. Yes, you're going to get frustrated, and that's part of the process, but to the point where they're discouraged, and if you don't make me money through this marketing process that you're telling me, then there's no reason for me to be doing this anymore. There's no reason for me to have this relationship with you. It's like it's one and done type of situation. It's like you've got one chance to prove yourself, and if you don't do it in the next 2 months, then forget it. You know what I mean? Like, why would I work with you? I mean, you go on a date and a girl says that to you. You have if a woman says, you've got 2 months to prove that you're the guy
right.
that I'm supposed
For
to
me.
marry,
Yeah.
that's a pretty steep,
Pretty tall order, yeah.
hill to climb. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, I don't know.
Yeah, unless you're on reality TV, it
It just doesn't work.
just doesn't work.
And
yeah.
we've seen that on reality TV. It doesn't work. You can't
Yeah.
do speed dating. There's some anomalies out there
Yeah.
where
Right.
situations work like that. But,
Yeah.
but no.
I feel like, and not to reduce anything we've talked about today, if you take one thing from today, work with someone, if you're going to hire someone for any aspect of helping you in your business, work with someone who cares. Who cares about not only the end result, not only the revenue, but the relationship, how it rolls out. Someone who's got as much skin in the game as you do, even if you're paying them, they still have everything they got in this because they want to see you win. And I get way more of a kick out of a return client than I do the check that I cash.
Right.
The fact that someone's like, yeah, we're going to do this again. Here's a new problem. Let's solve this one. That's my favorite, because you can't do any more to prove that you had a good time than to call up and say you want to go on a second date. Like, I love that part of it. So if you're going to hire someone who cares.
Yeah,
Please.
No, and I just had a prospect that I'm getting ready to sign. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But our first in-person meeting was kind of refreshing.
Nice.
Brought the laptop. Was ready to go through the proposal with him. I'd already sent it in advance. He had a peek at the proposal. But as we began talking, we're sitting across from each other, and I go to turn the laptop towards him so that he could see it, and begin to go through the proposal. And he's like, he holds his hand up and says, "No, I really wanted to just talk to you and get to know you, and really understand what our next steps are going to be." And get a feel for what that's going to look like. And I was just like floored. I was like,
awesome.
This never happens.
Right.
Everybody wants to know the bottom line, and it's like,
Give me the data, give me the bottom line.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, I want to work with this guy forever. So
that's so cool.
So it's just really refreshing. I'm looking forward to working with him, and
those are fun.
Those are fun opportunities, and that's the approach I'm looking for with new clients is they want to build a relationship and understand what I'm doing, and I've built that with some of the clients that I currently have, and I'm really enjoying it, and I'm passionate about what I do, and I try and hold true to the principles that I give to my brand clients as well, and prospects. So
I love it, man.
Yeah.
I love it. Thanks for being on the show, dude. This was so
thanks
much
for having
fun.
me. This has been
I know
awesome.
we could. I hope you'll come back.
Yeah.
Because we could do a series of. It's always nice to go through a conversation with someone who understands exactly what you go through. Because I can just sit here and nod like, man, that's horrible. Yeah. So it's been fun. I used to, in the early days of videography, shoot a lot of events, festivals, rock concerts, all this stuff, and interview rock stars. I used to try and pretend to be one back in the day too. And one of the things I always said in my interviews that I hadn't even thought of in years until right now is, what do you wish people asked you? Because you get the 10 latest single, where are you touring, where are you going to be, what's the website, what do you wish people asked you? And I got the best answers. I always got the best answers. And so a version of that, we've talked about your business, your approach, some of your personal feelings towards the industry, and that. What's something you want people to know that they might not know if they just went to your website or LinkedIn or any of that? Is there anything you'd want to share about you that you just kind of wish people knew?
Again, that the dream, purpose, action isn't just my mission and value for Envision Brand Marketing. It really is the principles that I live by, and is a part of who I am. It's really the foundation for my life, and what I've kind of crystallized for my family in terms of my family mission, my kids. That's how I encourage my kids, and my wife, and her job as a principal, and my kids in sports and at school. It's like you have to, crystallize who you are and your purpose and your dream, and it's all rooted in this, a spiritual foundation, but also, this belief that, if you really truly focus on who you are, you're not going to worry about, the outside world and what they're trying to tell you, and, any, misinformation that may be coming. But if you know who you are and you're confident in who you are, you're going to pursue your dream with purpose and with action, and you're going to be successful. You're going to fall, you're going to fail, but if you decide to continue to pursue it and have the perseverance and the determination to do it, you're going to succeed. And that's really what I want people to know, is that I truly believe that we're all capable of doing exactly what we were gifted to do. Nice. And we have those gifts, and we just have to hone in and nurture them.
I like that. Man, that's powerful. I'm glad I asked you that. So it's not only a version of walk the talk, but you're almost a living case study for why this works.
Yeah.
If you don't know what case study means, Google it. It's an industry term, but you're an example of why someone should hire you. I don't think you can get much better than not only being the physical face of your business, but also representing what your purpose and dream is. You know what I mean? It's kind of almost an Inception type thing. Like, it's happening while it's happening.
It is.
And
growing as we speak. I've had other entrepreneurial efforts, and I've failed. I've lost jobs. And if I were to stop because of a lost job, or stop because my entrepreneurial efforts didn't work previously, or I decided to go in a different direction because of life change,
right.
Where would I be today? If I gave up, you know what I mean? It's like, no, I have this purpose, and I know I have these gifts, and I'm so thankful to you, and you meeting you, and the opportunity to be a part of your growth as well, and create a relationship with you, because that means I'm going to grow, because you have this opportunity now to build this podcast, and that's what it's all about. And building those relationships, that third piece that you highlighted here in this podcast, is building out relationships, and that's important to me. And if I can have an impact on others' lives, and they can have impact on mine, I think the world's going to be a better place.
It is.
And, God willing, that's where my power comes from, and I'm not ashamed to say that my belief really strengthens me to pursue and persevere through all situations. And like I said, I'm really thankful for this opportunity, and look forward to seeing how Antipreneur grows. And I'm excited for my opportunity with Envision Brand Marketing, and seeing where that goes. But ultimately, I hope we can both, really have impact on people's lives and change people's lives.
I think so. We did today. I appreciate the kind words, by the way, man. I'll set it up. I am constantly telling people, the higher caliber entrepreneur that you run into, sometimes that means there's success or a certain level of achievement in a corporation or money or whatever. There's a million ways that you level up. The higher that an entrepreneur exists, seemingly, in my experience, the more willing they are to give out great information for free. And I don't mean free like they're going to give you an hour of their time when they're busy all the time. I mean free like, if the opportunity arises and you bring something to the table and they see a reason, they're going to give you the information. And I think that's what we've done today. You spilled some great, and if you don't realize it, listen or watch again. You spilled some great information that people could take away today and start doing better in their business before they hire you. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
There's just value. So you brought that. I appreciate that. This is our longest episode, which is exciting, because right off the bat, I had some people that are like, dude, that's great, but it's 6 minutes long, bro. Like, gimme. And I'm like, I'm working on it. I'm working. I don't always have an hour when I do it solo, but it's always easier when there's someone else's, viewpoint and conversation. So thanks, because I got a little pocket of people who are going to be really excited to see a longer episode that they can really like sit with on their drive to work or whatever, and check it out. So
awesome.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
All right, guys, if you stuck with us the whole time, thank you so much. Like I said, Davaughnu had a ton of great stuff to say. His process is very in depth, and it really sets his clients up for success. And I actually did a post after we did this interview where I talked about, thank God there's other great businesses out there, especially in the field that has to do with marketing, because there's so many crappy ones. There's so many of them giving us a bad name that it's great that I can point at another agency who's doing great things and really taking care of their clients. So thank you again, Davaughnu, for being on the show. I'll have all his information in the post. You can link up with him, ask any questions you might have. This is Dan Bennett, the Antipreneur, and you've been listening to the Antipreneur Show. We'll see you next time.